Hey kids, it's the Mist and Fly here, hope you're well. Absolutely beautiful day to be out on a bike review, and I'm pleased to say that I'm out on one of my current favourite genres of bike. This year I've really got into scooters, and this is the first time I've ridden what I would call a classic looking scooter. Today I'm on the Lexmoto Valletta, which looks like a scooter should look. It's a little 125cc machine, quite cute. Anyway, stick around, stay tuned, and I'll tell you what I think of it. So I don't know if you've seen many of my previous videos, but this is the first year that I've actually ridden any scooters at all. And I started off on maxi scooters, which were really impressive. I've ridden an electric scooter as well, the big BMW maxi scoot, the electric one. And now I'm on this, which is right at the other end of the scale. This is the Lexmoto Valletta, which is one of those scooters that's aimed very much at beginner motorcyclists or people that need city transport. And it's styled, as I say, in the classic way that a scooter should look in my mind, you know, sort of Lambretta-esque. So I'm pleased to say I've got this little machine for a little while, so I'm going to get to know the bike and how it operates on a sort of day-to-day basis. But for the next 5 or 10 minutes, just wanted to give you my initial impressions review, having only got the bike yesterday and just ridden it a little bit so far. So the first thing I noticed about the bike, and it becomes into sort of crystal focus because it is winter, it's February when I'm recording this, is the weather protection you get on the bike. Of course, because it's this scooter form factor, my legs are tucked in here, but I've only got my riding jeans on, but because I've got all this weather protection, even though it's a really cold day today, it's only about 4 degrees centigrade, I'm really quite warm here. So weather protection I'm a big fan of on scooters. Again, if you're obviously, these aren't bikes that are aimed at motorcycling enthusiasts. They're not fast, they're not exotic, there's nothing particularly special about them. But if you just need to pop down the shops or whatever, or nip through town, then I can't see a better way of doing it, frankly. I don't know if you read motorcycle news at all, but one of my favourite journalists in there is a guy called Michael Neves. He's their chief sort of sports bike writer, if you like. Well, he let us into a secret a few editions ago that he's actually been riding a Sinis scooter very similar to this for the last year. He bought it second hand for about 500 quid and has been using it as his day-to-day local transport, and he absolutely raved about it. And I completely get that. I think people that are snobbish about these sort of things are just missing out. They've probably never tried one. They are actually a lot more fun than they look. And from a practicality point of view, they're brilliant, with storage space under the seat, ease of riding, really cheap to both buy and run, no maintenance really, there's no chain because it's belt driven to look after. Well, and of course you do have to get the bike serviced, but there's no chain to worry about. So a really easy little machine to live with. They're very frugal as well. This one holds something like 6 litres of fuel in its tank. And so what's that, couple of gallons or gallon and a half, I don't know, I haven't done the maths, so I'll have to work that out. But you know, you'll get well over 100 miles of range out of it, so it's really cheap to get places as well. So what about some of the other sort of features? What's it like to ride? Well, from a seating position, classic scooter position, I'm sitting with my feet bolt forward like I'm on an armchair almost, which is a very comfortable place to be. There's very little wind blast, but of course on scooters you're not going very fast. I'm doing 40 miles an hour at the moment. The speedo on here is calibrated on the big numbers in kilometres, small numbers are miles an hour in the middle there. So I'm doing 40 at the moment. It's holding this speed absolutely fine, it's not struggling, the engine sounds completely as if it's not under stress whatsoever. And the ride, pretty comfortable. It's got a big old seat, nice and padded. I could ride on here for, you know, several hours and it wouldn't be uncomfortable. The mirrors on here nice and big and stalky, so you can see around yourself well. There's no hideous vibration or anything when you're moving along, so I've got a great view behind out of these mirrors. There is some vibration, however, when you're stopped. When the bike is just idling, the whole bike vibrates a fair bit at that point, and then the mirrors vibrate, but you could argue it doesn't matter so much then. When you're actually riding, there's no vibration, it's as smooth as you like, and there's a good view out the mirrors, so they work well. Now the brakes on this bike, it's a 125cc and it's Euro 4 compliant, but with small capacity bikes you don't have to have ABS. You can have linked brakes, and that's what this bike has got. It's actually got disc brakes front and rear, which is quite incredible for a bike of its type and its, you know, its cost. Let's face it, it's a cheap machine. but disc brakes front and rear. The front one, which I assume is activated by the right hand lever, not actually that good. Let's just check the mirror, nothing about. I pull that and it's not very sharp. It might just be that this bike is new and it's not bedded in yet, but it's not brilliant. But if I pull the left hand lever, which I assume is rear and front, that's really sharp. So that works a treat. So if you're coming from a classic conventional motorcycle, you might want to recalibrate your control maneuvers and actually brake using the left hand, which you'd usually obviously use for the clutch. Of course, on this, it being a scooter, there is no clutch, there are no gears. It's continuously variable drive on here using one of those clever V-belt type arrangements. I mentioned it's a 125cc and it's only low powered. It puts out something like 8 horsepower. I'll do a walk around and talk you through the spec in a minute. So it's not, obviously it's not a super powerful bike, but I have to say for a 125 it does feel quite strong. I've ridden quite a lot of 125s recently, and this I would say this was one of the more peppy machines that I've ridden in that category, even though it's a scooter and therefore you get that sort of weird, almost like the clutch is slipping all the time when you're using it, because that's the way the transmission works on these. But again, no effort here. I'm on this little B road, 40 miles an hour, no problem at all. The controls and instrumentation on here, very basic as you'd imagine. Only what you need and nothing else. So there's the headlights, full beam and dip. There's your indicators as usual and the horn, and on the right hand side you've actually got some hazard lights, which is quite handy I guess, and your start stop button and your kill switch. And then the instrument cluster is very simple, just speed on the analog displays, and say kilometers an hour on the outside, miles per hour on the inside. And then very usefully they've included an LCD fuel gauge here, which is brilliant and something that's missing on many conventional bikes, so I'm really glad to see that they've included that. And then you've got your so-called idiot lights on the bottom, and that's all you need, isn't it, on a bike? Now, this is a bumpy old road, as you can probably gather by the way I'm moving around, and it has to be said the suspension on it is basic at best. It's not too hard, it's not too soft, but on a bumpy road like this, really badly maintained one, it is a bit of a bumpy ride at the moment. Now let's see if I can stop up here at one of my favourite walk-around spots, and I'll show you around the bike and talk you through the spec. This will do nicely. Alrighty, let's turn her off, stand down, here we go. So here we are, this is it, the Lexmoto Valletta. Let's get out of my shadow. And particularly girly colour scheme on this one, has to be said. It is sort of powder blue, and white wall tyres as well, which I think actually look rather cute. Anyway, let me get my phone out and I'll show you around the bike and I'll talk you through the spec in the usual way. Won't take long, not much of a spec. Okay, so here we go then. Let's just put my visor up so I can get a bit of air. So the Valletta from Lexmoto. This is one of about 15 models of scooter that Lexmoto import. I assume it's made in China, pretty sure it is. So there are a lot of bikes of this type out there on the market, and as I say, Lexmoto themselves have about 15 variants of these little scooters, from sort of modern urban type ones to these more classic looking ones. I like the classic looking sort of Lambretta style. I think if you're going to have a scooter, a small one, then you might as well go hell for leather and go for this sort of 60s style. Although, as I say, maybe not with this paint scheme if you're a chap. Anyway, let me talk you through the spec, won't take long. Engine 125cc, fuel injected 4-stroke. Obviously it's a belt drive twist and go, it's air cooled. Power puts out 7.2 bhp at 7,500 rpm, so you're not going to win the TT on this one, I'm afraid. Torque wise, 8 newton meters of torque at 6,000 rpm. But again, as I say, it feels a pretty peppy little engine actually for a 125. Brakes, as I mentioned, we've got disc brakes on the front and back, these little tiny disc brakes, check those out. How cool are they? And they seem to work well, as I say, when you're using this left-hand lever. Not so sure about using it as a, the front brake itself feels a little bit weak, but it might just need bedding in. Suspension, telescopic forks on the front, and twin shocks on the rear. I'm not sure if I can actually see them because it's obviously the classic scooter configuration. There we go, there's the shock at the back there, another one on the other side, and of course the engine hangs off the swing arm and the classic sort of scooter way. Check out those cool white wall tyres as well. Seat height is actually quite high, 760mm, but doesn't feel high when you're on it. At the front here it's sculptured nice and narrowly, so you can get your legs down easy. No problem at all touching the ground on this one for me. I'm only 5'8", and it works a treat. weight 105 kilograms dry, so really lightweight machine, again because the engine's so low down, very low centre of gravity. Absolutely no drama when you stop, no danger of dropping this one. Tank capacity, it'll take 6 litres of fuel in here, not a lot, but it's so frugal that'll get you going well over 100 miles. It's actually 1.3 UK gallons. I made a note here, I'm glad I worked that out before. So about 130 miles to the tank, or 100 miles per gallon is the book figures. Electronics wise, well, not really any, but it does have LED indicators and a running light as well, I think. Price on the road for one of these, if you want one brand spanking new, just £1,600. Absolutely incredible value for money, so really cheap local transport if that's what you need. Alrighty, that's it for the spec. Let me jump on again and we'll wrap this up. Oh, actually, just before we do get going, something I must mention because it's a scooter. Storage under the seat, people always want to see that. So under the seat here, you've got a nice large storage area. Got my gloves in there at the moment. Although what I would say about it, it's got this sort of sculpted area here, and it looks like it would fit a small helmet. But my the showy helmet I'm wearing at the moment, minus the camera of course, I can't actually put the lid down with the helmet in there. Might work for people with smaller heads, but certainly my current helmet can't fit in there, which is a shame. So that's a bit of a nuisance. And then the other thing to mention is inside here, we've got a little storage compartment here. Let's show you. If you open that, you see you've got a USB charging port, so you can put your phone in there and charge it, which is a really useful feature. Hope you can see that. Alright, so that's that. Again, just one of those many bits of practicality you get when you get into the scooter world. Okay, so let's get out of here. A bit muddy around here. Oops, gonna mess up me footboards now. Take a bit of recalibrating yourself if you're a classic motorcycle rider riding one of these, because there's an awful lot of slack on the throttle when you initially wind it up. It takes a bit before it actually gets going, but once you've got the hang of it, very easy to ride. Well, now it's suddenly turned into Piccadilly Circus trying to get off here. Right, we're off. So I must just take this opportunity to thank the guys at Lexmoto. I think they're based down in Exeter in Devon, for lending me the bike. They've said I can borrow it for as long as I like, which is very kind of them. I think these bikes would be absolutely brilliant fun in the summer, when you can just jump on, you know, dare I say it, in just put a helmet on and your normal jeans and your t-shirt and pop down the shops. Now I'm an all the gear all the time sort of person, so in reality I wouldn't encourage that, and I probably wouldn't do that, but I can imagine if you just need to pop down the shops for a bag of shopping or something that you can stick under the seat, you don't need to get completely kitted up. You can just be sensible about it, maybe wear your normal jeans, and this is just a, as I say, a super practical means of transport. I can so see why they're so popular in European countries with nice weather. And if you were living in a suburb of Rome or something, or indeed even in London, why would you not have one of these? These back country lanes aren't the typical place that these are built for. It's more an urban bit of kit. So over the next few weeks while I've got the machine, what I'm going to do is use it as much as I can, which actually is proving quite difficult these days. I've got quite a lot of bikes at the moment. It's a great problem to have, but I'll ride it as much as I can, use it for the purpose for which it was intended, around town and on shopping runs, and I'll let you know what the bike's like to live with. I'll do a much fuller review looking at what it's like in town, riding on it at night and so on, in a few weeks time. So stick around and stay tuned for that if you're in the market for one of these little machines. But for the time being, that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Lexmoto Valletta. Forgot what it was called there for a minute. And I'm looking forward to getting to know the bike a little bit more over the next few weeks, as I say. Okay, hope that's been of some interest to you. Look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Mr. Flyer. Cheerio.